We start another project, which is adding color to our data grid. We first get our public class from one by double clicking on our form UI. So we then move on to add some columns to our data grid view. So data grid view 1 dot column count equals to, which means the number of columns should be 2. The first column should have name ID and the second column should have name score, which is data grid view 1 dot column index 0 dot name is equal to ID, and data grid view 1 dot column index 1 dot name is equal to score. We move on to adding rows to our table, our data grid view table. So dim row 1 as string is equal to 18, which means dim, we are defining a variable which is called row, and the row is more like an array accepting input. So its data type is string, and it's storing the value 1 and 80, which corresponds to ID and score respectively. So same applies to the dim row 2, dim row 3, and dim row 4. So we move on to adding the rows to the data grid view. So data grid view 1 dot rows dot add row 1, data grid view 1 dot row dot add row 2, data grid view 1 dot row dot add row 3, and that's of the row 4. So this adds row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4 to the data grid view so that we have a table. So we move on, and with this, we double click on our button to get the private sub button 1 underscore click. So we define a variable which is value. So dim values as new list into bracket of decimal bracket close. So this for loops through all the rows in the data grid view. So for each row as data grid view row in data grid view 1 dot rows. If not, is new then. So if the row is not maybe an empty row or a new row, then dim cell bar is equal to row dot cell score dot value. So therefore we define, so where a variable cell variable is defined and it is assigned to score. So row dot cell score dot value, which means this cell value will hold all the values in the row in the score column. All the values in the score column. So the values in the score column are extracted and stored in the cell variable. So if cell var is nothing and also is numeric, cell var dot string, then vals dot add convert to decimal into bracket cell var. What this means is that the if statement checks whether the rows or the cell selected is not empty. It must contains a value, and if it is also a maybe a number, being it float or integer, then the process passes moves on to the next step. But if it doesn't satisfy these conditions, then it can proceed to the next stage. So we know that we extracted the score columns, the values in score to silver, and the values in score are string. So we need to convert that string into what decimal. So that is the purpose, the rule of this code. Values dot add convert dot to decimal silver. So this converts the values in silver to decimal. So we end our if and move on to another if statement. So if values dot count is greater than 0, then so if the number of counts is greater than 0, meaning there are rows present, the data grid contains some rows which has values in it. Then we define our variable dim mass val as decimal equals to value dot mass value. So this will get the maximum value. Dim main val as decimal is equal to values dot main value. So this variable main value, which has data type dim, would extract the mean value, the minimum value, or to store the minimum value. So dim sum var are decimal. is equal to values dot sum, would sum all the values and store it in the sum var variable, and the arg var, which is the average value, would find the average of all the values in the score column. So after we are done, the results are displayed by the message box to show here. So if there's an error in the process, message box will show no valid number data in score column. So this tells us that the score column did not have number or integer or float or double input values in it. So therefore this error message pops up. So we take a look at how the UI works. So this is the UI. So let's click on the check. So we can observe that each cell has a color. Each cell has a color. The color corresponds to the range of the number. So from here, so one had a color of blue, two and 90 green, 4 and 75 green. So sorry. So 45 had a color of red, 30 had a color of red, and 75 and 90 had a color of green. So the colors stand for a specific range of score. So that's all. Thanks.